Hey everyone, sorry for the sort of long wait, but this is going to be the introduction to episode 7, which is going to be a sort of selling system, how to make a selling system for the Grow Garden game. So if we go over here to sell stuff, and if we interact with it, you'll see that we have sort of 3 different buttons. We have fruit wharf, bulk sell, and sell equipped, like so. And if we close it, it works. So if we go to garden, and we sort of, let's get some fruits, like so, and we go over here to sell, you see that all these functions work. So our fruit worth, it notifies us, so it's worth around 7,000. Tomato is obviously going to be relatively smaller, a larger tomato, like so. And if we go over here to sell equipped, you see that we created a new notifier for whenever our money gets changed. So let's sell this one more time, and bulk sell sells all of these items. So we bulk sell, all of our items are sold, other than carrot seeds, because you can't really sell these. And I want to preface that the start of this video is going to be sort of a bug fixing sort of stage. I'm going to be addressing a bug issue where these scalings aren't actually indicative of what they should be. So let's say like this scaling would be like 3 or something, and this would be 2. The scalings wouldn't match up correctly, which has been fixed now in this introduction. And the next half of the video is just going to be focused on making the selling system for the game. So yeah, hope y'all enjoyed the video, and please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and see y'all in the video. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 7 of the Grow Garden tutorial series. So today I'm going to be showing y'all how to make a selling system for the game. Because if you notice right now, if we play the game, we go to garden, or we go to sell, this interaction doesn't work yet. So we're going to have 3 different functionalities for this. The first one is going to be appraising fruit. So let's say you hold out like this cacao plant right here, a blueberry. You can ask an NPC to evaluate or appraise your fruit, see how much it's worth. And another functionality we're going to have is just selling single fruits. And as well, the third thing we're going to add is bulk selling, or selling multiple fruits. But the first thing I want to note for y'all is sort of an issue that we have right now, which in my Discord server, people brought it to my attention too, and I had to spend a while to fix it. But if you notice right now, you'll notice that the size of this is, well, first notice the size of this. If we harvest this and wait for it to regrow, you notice that the scale of the cacao plant is still the same, even though if we go to our planted seeds and we check the, I believe, fruit 4, you see that scale is 1.483. And if, let's say, we harvest this and we wait a little bit, you see that the scale is updated, but the size doesn't change. So we're gonna address this first before we make the selling system. And also, I want to note for y'all that I already made a SellFrame prior to this, but yeah, it's just going to be called SellFrame. It's in frames, and it has a list which has all of the options inside. So if you've been following the series, you should know how to make your own UI as well as organize it in a way. So I just wanted to make this prior to the video so we can actually work on the functionality of it rather than making the GUI for half of the video. But let's address this little size scaling issue. So first off, the reason this happens is because if you note right here, when we establish or clone our client model, you see that we set an attribute for the original size of every single part in here. So the client is assuming, or this replicator is assuming, the scale is just going to be the same all the time, even when you harvest it, because when you harvest it, you'll see that it just sets attribute to the original size when you harvest it. So yeah, we don't want that to happen. So first off, let's address this part right here. And let's see. All right. So the first thing we want to do is we want to destroy all of the fruit models that we have previously. And we want to just clone them in later if their harvestable is true. So like if can't harvest is true, then we'll just clone the fruit into the desired position. If it isn't, then we'll just destroy it. So when we're first cloning, we'll just destroy it to start off with. So we'll say for underscore nv, client get should do. If string.find v.name, fruit underscore, then we'll just go ahead and destroy the fruit. Because just notice that all of our client plant models has a little string inside, or that its name is called fruit underscore something. So we'll just see if the name or find it in the string and destroy it, like so. And let's go down here. And we don't really need the size scaling for fruits anymore, because we're going to change the functionality for that altogether. And let's see, same thing for the visual as well. So let's see. Right around here, we're going to remove the corresponding adornee as well. And that should be good. So this is the only part that we need for the most part. So if harvestable is set to true, so if you can harvest it, then we're going to want to clone the fruit in the position, as well as create the little highlight prompt, which if you recall is what the adornee thing is for. So let's scroll up here and edit our little harvestable change function that we have. So let's just go ahead and delete all of this, as well as delete all of this, because we're not tuning it based on these little sizes anymore, because the fruits aren't there. So instead, this is when the fruit prompt is enabled, right here. So let's see how we want to do this. All right, let's remove this as well, and then we can say, if not client model find first child fruit underscore ... fruit number. Then, so we're saying, okay, if the client model doesn't have any of these fruits in there and can harvest set to true, then we'll want to just clone the fruit inside of the model. So say local clone equals assets.plants, plant name. Let's go ahead and add some extra strings in here. So we'll say plant name. And we'll also want to add something called, let's see. We also want to add something called size scaling to see what the size of it is. Like so. And if we go down to here again, we can actually clone it now. So we can say assets.plants, which is the plant name, which is blueberry, dot client model, fruits underscore fruit number, clone. So, and we'll say clone set primary part CFrame to the server model CFrame, and then we'll just scale it up. And then we'll just parent this to client model now, like so. And we also want to add in the corresponding adornee. And if you remember, that's for our highlight on our prompts in our plans. So create a new object value. We'll just do the same thing as before. So corresponding adornee. Object value.value equals our clone, so our new fruit model. And we'll just go ahead and parent this to the fruit prompts. And otherwise, if this is just if it's just a multi-harvest, then we'll just want to clone the object value. So we'll just copy and paste all of this. And we'll just clone this to the client model. And we'll say server model.primary part, wait for child harvest prompt, like so. And that should be good. So if you remember, we added these two new arguments in here, our plant name and our size scaling. So because of that, we'll just want to do it down here as well. So right here, we'll just say plant name. So let's see. We'll say true name, which if you recall is just our true name. So blueberry, cacao, carrot, tomato, things like that. And we'll also do this the same for right here, true name. And then we'll just say, let's see, we'll say v.sizescaling.value and then v.sizescaling.value. Like so. And if you remember, our size scaling is according to our fruits, like so. So that should be pretty much it for that part. Or no, it's not. Well, also, so you see that the only functionality we added right now is for when harvestable is set to true, or can harvest set to true. We need to do something with the functionality for when we already harvested. So let's remove our testlet spawn right here. And then we'll say, okay, we want to remove the plant now, or destroy/remove fruit model. So we'll say local found object value. So we're gonna destroy the adornee first. So we'll say server model.fruit prompts, fruit number, the harvest prompt, find first child, which is a object value. And we'll say, okay, if we found it, then we'll destroy the adornee first, and then we're gonna destroy the fruit model. Go found fruit model, client model find first child fruit underscore fruit number. And if we found the fruit model, then we'll just go ahead and destroy it. And that should be good. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and disable the harvest prompt right here. So now, essentially what we did is that we removed the part where the client actually tweens these fruits, right? So we destroyed all the fruits from the client model, and based on whether or not you can harvest them or not is where we're going to actually clone them back or re-enable them. And you'll notice that right here, for multi-harvest plants, we clone the fruits, but for single harvest, the fruit is always just going to be the single crop. There's no multiple fruits in a single harvest, so that's how we're going to do it. And when harvestable is set to false, if it's multi-harvest, we can destroy the object value for the highlight as well as the fruit model. And we're disabling the prompt, and for single harvest, we're also disabling the prompt. So if we play the game, ooh, let's see what happened. Oh, I spelled fruit prompts wrong. So right here, you'll see that it should be fruit prompts, not fruits prompt. So there we go. And if we load in, you notice that, okay, the animation, doesn't work anymore, right? It doesn't fade in anymore. But the main thing I want to point out is that you notice the size is actually vary now. So let's say we harvest this plant right here. And wait around 5 seconds for it to grow back. Let's see. You'll notice that the plant size actually scales like correctly this time. So that's exactly what we want. Alright, so now that that sort of small issue is fixed, let's get into the actual selling part, or the selling system of the video. So, first off, I want to note the frame that I already made. I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to mention it again. So we have our little SellFrame right here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually want to script this so it can actually work in the game. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing we want to do is we want to create a bindable event here called ToggleSellFrame, like so. And we're going to want to go over here to our prompt right here. And you see that, okay, we have a seed shop prompt, but we also have a sell shop prompt. So we'll say show sell shop prompt, which I believe is what this is called. Or sell prompt, so make sure the names actually match up. And then we can say events folder.ToggleSellFrame. So we can say events folder ToggleSellFrame fire true, like so. So we're toggling our SellFrame so it can be open. Now that that proximity prompting is done, we can work on the actual frame. So we can add a new script in here called SellFrame handler. So you see we have seed frame handler, but now we also want a SellFrame handler. Let's call it SellFrame handler. So we're going to want to sort of get around 4 variables or 4 services. We want debris, we want replicated storage, lighting, between service. And we'll get our remotes and our modules, like so. So we're gonna want to make a remote in here called sell, first off, and then we're gonna get the modules. So we want the seed data module, seed data, oops. We'll want the seed fruit name parse. And we're also going to make a new module script in here called GetFruitValue. So obviously you should be able to determine what this module script actually does based on the name. And you would be right to assume that it's for getting fruit values. So let's script this first. So you notice that in our fruit name parse, we were just returned a function right here. Similarly, we can also return a function in this module script. So let's go ahead and get the modules and get our seed data, or seed module, we'll call it that. And let's say return function fruit data any. So our fruit data is going to be this value right here. Let's go to our inventory service and let's go to our give fruit function right here, or no, yeah, right here. So these values is going to be retrieved from the fruit parser. So we're going to get our mutations, which is going to be a table, our weight, and fruit name, like so. So we're going to say fruit data.mutations, local weight, dot fruit name, like so. We'll say seed data equals seed module dot get data fruit name dot seed, like so. And we can say if seed data and mutations and weight and fruit name, then we'll proceed with the function. Otherwise, we'll just return 10 if everything else fails. So we're going to say base value equals seed data dot base value dot value. And let's go over here to our modules, our seed data. And if you don't have a base value sort of number value in here yet, you can create one. And obviously this is just going to determine what the base value of the fruit is going to be. So everything, let's say it's just a base of 1 kilogram, no mutations, no nothing. This is what the base value is going to be like. Now we can work on sort of planning for the future. So for growth mutations. So let's just create sort of a module right here called growth mutations. And if you go to the Grow Garden wiki and you can look up mutations and you scroll the way down, you see that the value calculation formula is right here. And this is exactly what we're going to use for our game as well. And you see that in the formula, if there's no mutation, it's going to be 1, rainbow 50, gold 20, like so. So we're going to say, okay, if it's none, 1, golden, we'll get 20 or times 20, and rainbow we'll just say 50, like so. And we'll say environmental mutations is equal to, just say none equals 1. So the difference between these two is that growth mutations are immediately determined when you plant the seed. Because in Grow Garden, when you plant a seed, these there's a 10% chance for you to get golden and a 1% chance for you to get rainbow, I believe, or something like that. And environmental mutations are going to be things based off of weather and things like that. So right here, we can continue scripting. We'll say local growth mutation multiplier, which is a number, is going to be growth mutations.none. So we're defaulting. And for underscore comma multiplier string, comma, string, and growth mutations do. So if the growth mutations has our little mutation that we want, we will set the growth mutation multiplier to the growth mutations and the multiplier, like so. And right here, we'll work on environmental mutations. And we'll say local environmental multiplier, I can't spell. Environmental multiplier, number is equal to 1. So this is going to be our default for now, because we're not adding any mutations yet. That's going to be for the next 2 videos. And now we're going to do return base value. Alright, so we're going to say return base value times our weight squared. And then we're going to say times the growth multiplier times 1 plus our environmental multiplier, like so. And that's going to be how we're going to determine our values. Obviously, if you don't want it to be this complex, you can just make it to however you want. But we're just going to be following the Grow Garden sort of formula. And now, going back to our seed frame handler, let's work on the UI. So we'll say local GetFruitValue. Require modules.getFruitValue. And we're going to use a new module called FormatNumber, which is right here. So essentially what this does is that it sort of adds in the commas for you. So obviously you don't want to like have to add commas in yourself, read the number. So that's what we're going to use. So we're going to just download the file right here. And we can just go over here and go to modules, right click, insert from file, and insert the sort of format number thing. So we'll just say local format number equals require modules dot format number dot simple, which is just going to be sort of the dumbed down version of formatting it. And you can read more about it in the documentation right here. So you see that, let's see, there we go, right here. Simple API, you can just say format number dot format, and that's pretty much it. Anyways, so now we can say local main GUI script.parent, which is just our main GUI right here. Local server info. So which has our little seed restock timer. Local events folder, our main GUI with child events, local root. Configuration, like so. And then we're just going to want to default our sort of frame first. So we're just going to set the visibility to false. And we're going to set the size to just very small, like so. And now we're going to want to script the actual UI appearing. So we're going to say events folder, that's ToggleSellFrame, .event, connect function, boolean, like so. And then we're going to, of course, we have a debounce in here called seed frame debounce. We're also going to add a sellframe debounce. We save configuration folder, that's sellframe debounce.value, then return end. Whoops, not events folder, return end. And we're just going to set the debounce to true for a little bit. So you can't really spam this frame open. We're going to say if bool equals true, then we're going to make visible. Otherwise, we're just going to toggle it. Make invisible, like so. And now we'll say task.spawn function, local found blur equals lighting, find fish child, sellframe blur. If found blur, then found blur destroy, end, like so. And you notice that this is very similar to our seed frame updater that we had before. So similarly, we can just copy and paste all of this right here. And we're just going to rename it so it matches. And we'll say sellframe and sellframe like so. And we're going to want to tween this so it matches. So we'll say 0.227, 0.501, 0, like so. And now, let's see. Now we're just going to remove the blur right here. So once again, we can just copy and paste this part right here. And we're just going to remove the blur. So same sort of deal. We'll say sellframe and sellframe, like so. So yeah, that's going to be pretty much our toggle event thing. So we play the game and go to press sell. you see that UI pops up. And if we exit out, oh, I need to script an exit out button. Oops. So right here, we'll just say SellFrame.exit, the mouse button click, connect function, and just toggle our SellFrame to false. One thing I want to note is probably a bug y'all might encounter if y'all do it like this, is that sometimes y'all miss and match the names of the events. Because ToggleSeedFrame and ToggleSellFrame look pretty similar, so make sure you don't do that. But now that should be good. So if we go to sell and we open it, we can close it as well. And yeah. Now that the functionality for making the button work, the toggling works, we can work on scripting it now. So we'll say sellFrame.list.sellEquipped.main.button.mouse button click connect function. Once again, this is just how I organize this, which you'll see bulk sell, things like that. We'll say sellFrame.list.bulksell.main.button mouse button click. And we'll just say sellFrame.list.worth.main.button. So let's go ahead and just script the actual selling part first before we work on seeing how much the fruit is worth. So right here, we can just say remote.sell, not by seed, sell fire server equipped item. And then we'll say sell fire server bulk sell, like so. Now, even though we fired this, we obviously need to listen for when these events are fired on the server. So let's go to our money service, because obviously money has everything to do with selling and buying, or not buying, selling and giving yourself money, things like that. So because of that, this is where we're going to work on our selling system. So down here, we can say function service.init. We can say remote.sell.onServerEvent connect service.sellListener, like so. And then we can just say function service.sellListener is equal to function, like so. So this is sort of just another way for you to be able to, whoops, not like that. There we go. Service.listener, like that. There we go. So if we do connect like this, obviously remember that answer events always have player as the first argument, so the player who fired it. And now we're going to add an action, or add another parameter called action, which is going to handle what the action right here is. So we're going to obviously want to get our data service and our inventory service. I'm going to say, okay, if the player's data is not loaded, then return end. And we're going to get our character. Oops, not can load. If character, then local player data, data service.getData, player. Not player data, then return end. And we're going to get our inventory save. And we're going to check if there's a debounce called sellDebounce in the player. If there is, then we're going to turn end. Otherwise, right here, we're going to make a debounce. Debris, let's add a debris variable right here for destroying items. And we'll say debris, add item, let's say debounce, comma 1. And if you notice, we have two actions that we want, equipped item and bulk sell. So let's work on our equipped item first. So we're going to say if action equals equipped item, make sure it matches with this right here. Then we're going to say local item equipped equals character, find first child, which is a tool. We say, okay, if item equipped, then we're going to check if the item's actually in the save. We're going to say if item equipped get attribute is seed, then return, or found in save equals no. And we're going to say else if item equipped get attribute is fruit equals true. And found in save equals inventory save, not service, inventory save. Item equipped get attribute fruit ID. Because if you remember, we saved the fruits right here. So if you remember, we saved the fruits right here as the plant key or the fruit key. So that's how we're going to need to be able to check for it. Then else we're going to say found and save equals inventory save item equipped.name. We're going to say, okay, if we found it and save and item equipped.parent equals character, another check, we're going to sell the item like so. So we'll say local mutations, comma, wait, comma, fruit name only, fruit parser. So we're going to need to get the fruit parser module. So if we go up here, we're going to get the modules. And we're going to get our seed module. We need to get our fruit parser. And we need to get the GetFruitValue module, obviously because we're selling fruits. And right down here, we can work on selling it now. So say item equipped.name, which is just going to hold the full name, the mutations, weight, and the fruit name. And we're going to say if mutations and weights, and weight and fruit name only, then valid fruit, obviously. Local value equals GetFruitValue. And remember, we have the sort of table in here. So we'll say mutations equals mutations, weight equals our weight, and our fruit name is equal to fruit name only, like so. And then we'll say service.giveMoney, and we'll want to give the money to our player, of course, and the value. We'll say inventory service.remove item, our player, and then item equipped get attribute fruit ID, comma 1. Because if you remember, that's how we scripted it. So the player, the item name, or in this case our plant key, and the count of how much we want to remove it. And yeah, that should be pretty much good for single selling. So if we go over here and play the game, we go sell. And let's say that, okay, let's just press sell equipped, it doesn't work. So let's say we have this equipped and we click sell. You notice that our money goes up and the plant gets removed from our inventory, like so. And let's say we have a seed equipped. Can't sell seed, so it doesn't work. We have a carrot and we sell it. You notice that our money goes up. And now let's work on our actual bulk sell mechanic. Similarly, we can just do the same thing that we did for equipped item. So we can say if action equals bulk sell, then local items to sell. So obviously we're going to sell every item in our inventory. And one thing I want to know, okay, let's say you favorited an item, right? You can just check for that in your script. You can say, okay, if item that is favorited, then continue. And you don't want to add that into your sort of items to sell dictionary or table. So let's say local tool equals character, find for shop is the tool. Let's say you already have a tool equipped. You're going to want to account for that too. So tool and tool get attributed is fruit equals true. And tool get attribute fruit ID. Then table.insert items to sell, comma tool. So essentially our items to sell table is going to look something like this. It's going to be okay. We have our carrot, blah blah blah, our cacao, blah blah blah, etc. etc. So now we're going to loop through our backpack. Say if v is a tool, and v get attribute is fruit equals true, and v get attribute fruit ID, then if not table.find items to sell, comma v, then we want to insert it into the table, like so. And now we're going to say, okay, if there is no items to sell, then we'll return n, because we have nothing to sell. And otherwise, we're going to loop through all of the tools, and we're going to sell them individually. So right here, we're going to see, okay, remember we did found and save, so we're going to say local found and save equals inventory save, item get attribute fruit ID. If found and save, then we want to sell it. So obviously, just copy and paste all of this easily. And we're just going to say item.name. Same thing, item get attribute. And now this is going to sell all of the items in our inventory. And let's say, okay, we have it favorited. You can just say, okay, if toolgate attribute favorited, then, or if not toolgate attribute favorited, then put this in the table. It's not favorited, so you can sell it. Similarly, you can just do the same thing right here. And that's going to be our bulk selling. You can see very easy to script in and very easy to get the functionality of it too, because we already have a function called give money and remove item, and they work. So you don't need to, following the Jirai principle, don't repeat yourself. Just copy and paste this line of code and it'll work. You don't need to copy and paste blocks of code just for one function that does the same thing. And right here we can go over here to sell. Let's see, sell equipped, it works. Say we have this out and we do bulk sell. You see that all of our items are sold and our money went substantially up as well, and we have a carrot seeds left. Now, one thing I want to note for y'all is that we really don't know how much money we have right now, or how much money we get when we sell things. It's because there's no indicator, right? So in order to combat that, we can create sort of a mini indicator. So in order to create a mini indicator, the first thing we want to do is let's open our shekels updater. And so when we checked for the shekels is changed or not. So if we already checked for when it's changing, we can make a function to where we see whenever it changes what the value of its previous value was and compare it to. And we can get the difference of those, and then we can say, okay, X amount was added or X amount was removed, right? So the first thing, let's make a test.spawn in here, a new thread. And let's call this a visualizer. So we have local last count equals mockValue.value. Local new count equals obviously our new shekels value. Like so. And then let's say, okay, local difference equals new count minus last count. So let's say, okay, our last count was, let's say 500, right? And our new count was 100. We can just say print new count minus last count. And you see that, okay, we went down 400 coins or shekels. And similarly, if we have like 1,500 now, is this going to print out 1,000? Like so, because we got 1,000 shekels added to our balance. So right here, we'll also want to get our number formatter. And the reason for that, if you play the game right now, you notice that there's no commas in here. We need to actually make that function work, which is why we imported the FormatNumber module from earlier. So let's go to shekels updater and let's script it in. We'll say, okay, difference equals math.seal, cell or ceiling difference. So we're going to round it to the rounded up. And we'll say, okay, if difference is less than 0, then we know it's a negative difference. Otherwise, it's a positive difference. So essentially, you lost money, and here you gained money, like so. And now we can say difference is equal to math.absolute value difference, and we're going to get our number formatter here. I'll explain why we did what we just did in a second. And then we're just going to get our format number module. Dot simple. And over here, we'll just say difference is equal to format number dot format difference. So it's going to add in our commas that we want, that we really love. And now right here, we're going to leave a spot for our sort of text label indicator. So right here, let's go ahead and add a text label or add a frame. I'm going to call this money update notice. So obviously it's going to notify us when our money gets updated. We're going to make a big frame for that. we're gonna add a text label, and we're just gonna call this update, like so. And we can just duplicate this and just call this update, because we want it to look sort of the same. And instead, we'll just remove the UI stroke from this. And we'll want this color to be sort of a yellowish color. Like so. Let's make it yellow. There we go. And we want it to be sort of positioned near it. So obviously the position we want it to be maybe around 879. Just right above it, like so. And we're gonna put this little template into our shekels updater. So here we can say local template clone script.update clone. And right here we can say, okay, we want our clone to text or our template clone text to start off with negative because you lost money. If you gain money, we want it to be positive. And then we can say clone.text equals clone.text ... toString difference. And we're going to want our position, our template clone position, to be around here. And we're going to say tween service create. Oh, first off, we got to parent it to our money notifications frame, and we're going to tween it. So we're going to make it sort of fade up a little bit. So if we parent this back, we'll want it to be right here and then fade up and away and go away. So we'll say tween service create clone around 1.5 or tween, yeah, and tween info.new 1.5 seconds. We want to have a linear sort of transition, and we're going to position it sort of upwards, a little bit up. So this position right here, comma 0, text transparency, make it fade away, like so. And we're just going to say debris add item, make it destroy in like 2 seconds. So say debris add item clone, comma 2 seconds. So now if we play the game, you'll notice that, ooh, first off, the next thing we want to do is we want to format this number right here. So we can just say format number.format or mock value, like so, and that's pretty much it for that. And if we play the game, you see that our number now has commas on them, or our shekels has commas on it now. So if we go over here to our garden, let's just pick out a couple of fruits. So we want tomato, we want some blueberries, and let's go to sell. Let's sell 1 tomato. You notice that it shows exactly how much we sold it for. So it's around 3,296, and let's bulk sell 10,000. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Obviously, if we want to add sort of a $sign at the end of this, use concatenation. So we can say toString difference ... money, like that, or the dollar symbol. So we go to our garden again, and let's pick out a cacao plant. So equipped, we have the $sign at the end. Now the final functionality we want to add is this fruit worth thing right here. So in order to add that, similarly, we can just put this in the money update notice. So we're going to duplicate this right here. I'm going to put this inside this. I'm going to call this a worth display. And we can put this right here, center it, and we can say this fruit is worth whatever amount you want, like so. And we can put this in the sort of center of the screen. So if you remember anchor points, do that, and it's in the center. We can sort of scale this up a little bit, like so. And that's pretty much how it's going to appear on the screen. And we can move this to our SellFrame handler, and we can actually script it in now. So we go to SellFrame handler, and we go to worth. You'll see that we left a spot for it. So we can say, okay, if we found a tool in the player. We want to proceed with it. So we'll say game player is a local player.character, find for child, which is a tool. If we found the tool, then we're going to check if it's a fruit or not. And found tool, get attribute is fruit. Then we'll continue. And of course, we want to see the mutations and get the fruit value. So similar to how we did in here. So we can say local mutations, comma wait, comma fruit name only, fruit name parser, fruit parser, found tool.name. If mutations and wait and fruit name only, then we'll want to get the value. So obviously copy and paste this right here, put in there, and that's pretty much our value. And we'll want to format the value now to where it has the commas in there. And then we're gonna visualize it. Local clone script.workDisplay clone. We'll say clone.text equals the money symbol to string our formatted value. And we'll position this in the middle of the screen. And then we're going to parent it to our money update notice, which is the large frame handling all of our money notifications. And then we're going to tween the clone now. So we're going to say tween info.new to linear and out. Position it sort of upwards a little bit. Text transparency is equal to 1. Text stroke transparency is equal to 1. Our text stroke transparency is the sort of outline we see right here. And that's pretty much the script for the wharf, the appraisal. So if we go to our garden and let's go ahead and pick out a larger or a small plant and a large plant. So yeah, these two have varying different sizes. So we go to sell and we check the fruit wharf. It's not that much. It's only around 1,000. Ooh, hold on. Let's see. Text stroke transparency. It didn't fully fade out. Let's see. UI stroke, that's why. So right here, if we go to our SellFrame handler, we can also tween out the UI stroke. Or instead of that, we can just remove this. And then we can just sort of copy the color of this. And right here, we'll just make this color, and we'll change this to 0, like so. And that's pretty much it. So now it should fade away sort of relatively smoothly. So yeah, it does. And you see that, okay, this is around 5,000, but the smaller fruit is just only 1,000. So it works. And if we sell both of our fruits, bulk sell, you see that we went up by 6,000. So yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much gonna be our selling system. So just to rehash and go over what we did, right? So we have our little proximity prompt right here, which we detected in our prompt client, our ToggleSellFrame, and we toggled it to make it visible. And then in our SellFrame handler, we added 3 new types of selling things: the sell equipped, the bulk sell, and how much something is worth. And here we just handle toggling and exiting out of the frame. And another thing we did is that we added a sort of money visualizer whenever or anytime our shekels values changed. So yeah, and we used a new module called FormatNumber to format the number into commas. In addition to modules, we also added a new module called GetFruitValue, which follows Grow Garden's sort of valuation formula. So if you don't really want to follow it, just make your own formula, but yeah, that's pretty much that. And in our money service, we created a new function, or a new remote event, called sell, which has our 2 server-side functionalities, the bulk sell and the equipped item sell, which uses the GetFruitValue module that we made and the fruit parser. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Once again, we play the game, we go to garden, we can just pick out any fruits that we want. And yeah, we also fixed the issue with fruit scalings not really working. like so, and you'll see that the scales are in fact changing. If we go to sell and we check our fruit worth, we can see, okay, it's 2,000. If it's a seed, it's not really worth anything. There's no worth. 2,000, 4,000 larger fruit. We sell them all, and we have a little notifier, and the money goes up. So yeah, thank you for watching, and tomorrow's episode, or whenever episode 8 is going to go over the weather system in general. So just making it rain, a certain randomized chance, making it rain, thunderstorm, snow, and things like that. And episode 9 is going to go over actually putting mutations on fruits and how it's going to work. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and peace.